Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Freely Nourished, the podcast that empowers you to break the cycle of dieting by teaching you to nourish your body well. I am your host, registered dietitian Erin Casey, and I'm also the owner of New You Nutrition Counseling, where we believe that you can reach all of your health goals at just about any body size. So, as we look into the new year, if you are wanting to break free from the roller coaster that is dieting, you are looking for a way to improve your health in the new year, but you are tired of the cycles of shame and failure and guilt around food, around your body, and you are looking for another way out, please give us a call. We are enrolling now for our New Year, New You program, which is basically a course that walks you through all of the ways in which diet culture has set you up for failure and then proceeded to capitalize on said failure by selling you another diet that will not work. So if you are ready, like I said, to break out of that cycle, if you are ready to find freedom in food, freedom in your body without guilt or shame associated with it, then definitely give us a check out. All of the information can be found on our website, which will be linked below, as well as the page to sign up. So today I am coming to you with our very last podcast of 2022. So I will, by the time this airs, we'll be getting into Christmas week, and then I will be taking some time off between now and the end of the year, partly to get ready for said program to launch at the first of the year, but also just to kind of connect with my family, to travel a little bit, to enjoy some food myself, etc. So I am so excited to share today's episode with you guys. We are going to be talking about setting New Year's intentions. And I do use the word intention intentionally, and I'll kind of get into why that is in a minute, but basically this is kind of our wrap up of everything from 2022, and kind of as we start to look forward into 2023, how do we avoid kind of falling victim to that same cycle, right? Those New Year's resolutions, we all know, we've written them, that we set out, we're okay, I'm gonna go to the gym every day at 6 a.m. and then like that lasts maybe a week, right? Or I'm gonna start meal prepping, or I'm gonna lose weight, or I'm gonna this, that, and the other thing. The things that we set out with all of the best intentions, right? We have every intention of doing these things, but we fall short. I think there's a statistic that like 70% of New Year's resolutions don't even make it to like March, so they don't even make it 3 months, and that's not a failure of you personally, right? So if you've ever had a New Year's resolution that you like just could not stick to, that is not your fault. That is really the system that has set you up for failure. It's very similar to diet culture, right? It's these unrealistic expectations, these unmanageable or unsustainable methods to get to those expectations. And then ultimately we get fed up, burn out, and crumble, right? So instead of writing New Year's resolutions, which I equate like a resolution is something kind of along the lines of a SMART goal. Most people are kind of familiar with a SMART goal is at this point in time. But a SMART goal is something that is specific, measurable, realistic and attainable, and then also time bound. So instead of saying something like, I want to lose weight this year, I want to lose, you would make it SMART, right? So you have to make it specific. How much weight do you want to lose? Well, I want to lose 50 pounds by the end of the year. Okay. That is specific. It is measurable because we're measuring weight. It is attainable and realistic because that is a realistic amount of weight to lose in a year. If you're trying to lose 200 pounds in a year, I've got news for you. That's not going to happen. And it's time bound, right? So we have a year. A lot of people said more of I want to lose 50 pounds in 3 months. That's specific and it's measurable. It's not realistic or attainable. And yeah, okay, it's time bound, but it's not realistic, right? So we spent a lot of time. I love SMART goals. A lot of people write resolutions kind of as SMART goals. And I think there is some value in that. But when we're talking about something that we want to kind of continue for a year, right? I think that, if you want to set the goal of like, I want to lose 50 pounds in a year, that's great. But that's a long time to kind of consider that weight loss journey, right? So I think what actually works better for me personally, and I found a lot of other like-minded folk, is to, rather than setting like a very specific SMART goal, which may or may not be physically possible, right? Like you could come down with COVID in March, or you could, a relative gets sick and you have to like, change everything about what you're doing, or, your job changes, or, lots of things can get in the way of that, to where if you're not kind of prepared to navigate those spaces, the goal may kind of go by the wayside. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people, because let's be honest, in a year, a lot can change. So what I find to be more helpful is something along the lines of a new year, what I call a New Year's intention. Now that is something along the lines of like a word, or maybe like a sentence. If you own a company, think of kind of like a mission statement. That's kind of what you're going for. For me, I personally like using just one word. But some people, I've also seen them use like a very short statement or something like that. So instead of kind of, your SMART goal of I want to lose 50 pounds by the end of the year, your one word could be weight loss, but I would encourage it to be something more aligned with kind of your values and who you are as a person and what you want to become. So your goal could potentially be health, right? That's just the goal. That's the one intention you are aligning everything you want to do over the next year with, right? So for example, that could involve your weight, but it also could involve stress management. It could also involve better work-life balance, better sleep, more water. It can involve things like exercise and more fruits and vegetables and things like that, but you're not limited, right? So that way, when things come up, so let's say you change jobs and you don't have the time to exercise and prepare meals the way you wanted to. Okay, well, let's realign ourselves with health. What can I do? Are there meal plans or meal delivery options that I can subscribe to? Is there a prep strategy that I can find that works? And I work with a dietitian to kind of get me some better ideas. What are these other options for health? If I'm not able to exercise, okay, can I find time to walk during my workday? Can I find time to do yoga or meditation or deep breathing, connect with myself? Can I focus on water? Can I focus on sleep quality? All of those things relate to your health, and honestly probably will affect your weight, but they don't necessarily, it doesn't fit this rigid form that most of us kind of set out for ourselves, if that makes sense. So again, I really encourage you to pick a word or a sentence, and you can kind of pause the video right now if you want, and just kind of reflect on kind of like a word or a sentence that kind of is either what you're working towards, or kind of just represents like who you are as a person, or a facet of yourself you want to explore most. I find that journaling is exponentially helpful in kind of trying to tease apart this process. If you've never done values work, I highly encourage you to. I'll link one in the show notes, but you can kind of Google like lists of values, and like 1,000 different options pop up. Some are long, some are short, but the idea is it kind of just gives you a list of attributes. Things like kindness, honesty, trustworthiness. Things along those lines, and you kind of basically just circle the things that are important to you. The idea is that you want to kind of get to like 3 to 5 that are like your kind of core values, but a lot of people find it helpful, at least at first, to circle like the first 20 that stand out to you, and then narrow it down to 10, and then narrow it down to 5. And I think that is immensely helpful for you in general, certainly at the kind of the turn of a new year, because to be honest, your values will change over time. There may be certain core values that kind of that remain the same, but you will find others that kind of shift, or at least shift in terms of like their priority to you. So I think that is immensely helpful in kind of aligning your goals and your intentions for the new year to those values, because at your core, those are the things that you are, those are the things that you seek to become, and those are the things that you value both in yourself and in others. So they can affect everything from your relationship with food, your own body, yourself, your relationship with other people. I think there's immense value in kind of doing that values work. And then journaling can also be really helpful to kind of tease apart kind of what direction you do want this new year to take. I think sometimes that kind of feels like a really big question and it can take a lot to unpack. So just to offer kind of a couple of solutions, a couple of prompts to maybe kind of get you started. You can ask yourself things like, what is going well and how can I capitalize on that more? And then potentially what is causing me stress or anxiety and how can I work to minimize that? Right. So I'll say it again. What is going well and how can I capitalize on that? And what is causing me stress and how can I minimize that? I think those can be kind of really helpful. And then kind of, with your minimization approach, think about things like, is there things systemically that needs to change? Is it day-to-day things that need to change? Another way to think about this is kind of asking yourself, what do I want to keep? So again, kind of what went well, but like, what do I want to keep? What did I get from 2022 that I want to hang on to? And what did I get from 2022 that I maybe want to let go of, right? It doesn't have to be something you got in 2022. Like if you want to let go of body shame or food shame or stress around food, those maybe are things that were present well before the start of 2022. But if they were part of your 2022 and you don't want them to be part of your 2023, that could be something to add to the list. But then you may have had other things that, you may have found joy in movement. You may have found joy in cooking. You may have experienced new foods that you like. So those would be things to keep. And then just kind of a third, just kind of offering of ways to think about this is, what do I want to do more versus what do I want to do less? Right. Now, obviously, I think most of us would want to sleep more and work less, right? But that's not necessarily feasible. So I would just kind of get into maybe slightly more details. Like even if the honest truth is you want to sleep or rest more, okay, but what does that look like, right? Does that mean going to bed at a certain time? Does that mean setting yourself bedtime reminders? Does that mean giving up your morning workouts? Does that mean improving your sleep quality by changing the aesthetics of your bedroom or adding plants or scents or sounds or whatever? And then if your goal is to work less, well, okay, are there projects that you can delegate? Are there can you set a cutoff time or improve your boundaries with your boss? Things that, or just for a lot of us, it's just don't check your phone after a certain point in time, because a lot of times what we end up doing isn't really what's expected of us. It's just, we do it because we have access to it at the palm of our hand. So again, what do I want to do more versus what do I want to do less? And I find that one to be tremendously helpful, because it's not necessarily I have to work 40 hours a week no matter what, right? That's not going to change, but what I'm doing in my off time, right? What do I want to do more of? I want to do more of connecting and enjoying, and I want to do less scrolling, for example. And then kind of, once you answer those questions, kind of think about, your values, maybe any long-term goals that you have for yourself. So, if you have any 5-year or 10-year, either career goals or education goals, or weight or health goals or things like that, fitness goals, etc. If you want to run a marathon at some point in time and that, well, maybe that's not going to happen this year, but long term, that's a goal of mine. Kind of keep those goals in mind. If you can kind of think of what are things that I can do this year that are going to set me up for success. So for me personally, growing my business is kind of always at the top of my list going into a new year. So kind of, when I think about the other things I want to do throughout the year, I kind of always have on my mind, does that align with me? Is that going to align or conflict with me wanting to grow my business? And it's not always bad if it conflicts, right? But it's just kind of is that a conflict I want to take? Do I need to reassess my values? Do I need to reassess my long-term goals, etc.? And then, you basically kind of whittle your way down to, a word or a goal. I think my my intention for 2022 was courage. And I definitely had lots of opportunities and definitely did set up to the plate a couple of times to show courage in 2022, in my business, in my personal life, in my professional life. And that was hard, but it was something. I really love the idea of like a statement or just a word that you can kind of reflect back to, is like, does this decision or does this behavior reflect courage? For me, it was courage. For you, it may be, growth or joy or, whatever. And I think for 2023, I'm toying between a few. I've kind of gotten down to, I'm curious about growth, but I feel like that's also kind of just as generic. I'm also wanting to kind of intentionally experience more joy. Not that I don't have joy in my life, I do. I just feel as though because of the nature of the work that I do, because of how much I work, I'm often disconnected from it. So I think, my words are kind of, along the lines of intention, um, grounding, connection, joy, etc. Those are the ones I'm kind of bouncing around in my head. And there's no reason why you have to pick like just one. If anything, it can be really beneficial to brainstorm a couple on a piece of paper and then kind of just circle back to it, like leave it for a couple of days and come back, leave it for a couple of days and come back, and just kind of see, where your mind goes and kind of what continues to jump out at you. And then kind of as you are navigating all of the twists and turns that 2023 will inevitably bring all of us, you kind of have that word or that phrase to come back to help kind of ground yourself in what you intended to build for yourself this year. So with that, I will say goodbye to all of you and to 2022. I cannot believe it. I am so excited for what the new year is going to bring for all of us. I, wish you all the warmest and best holiday season, whatever that looks like for you. And if, you are interested in the New Year program, it's a group coaching program. It will be kicking off right at January 1st. And we will be talking about much more along the lines of kind of how to identify these goals for ourselves, how to adjust. It is a 90-day program. It is $180. So that is, less than $60 a month for weekly coaching, basically. So that is a pretty good deal. I've spent a lot of time kind of cultivating it into something that I think you guys are all really going to love. So I hope to see you all there. But if I don't, please enjoy your holiday season, and I will see you all in 2023.